Okay, welcome back. So here I'm in the Marketplace tab. We can see that we have a bunch of options here. We can see what is free for the month. You can scroll down and you have special discounts and stuff like that. So you can of course browse various things, particular things that you're interested in, weapons maybe, props, and so on. You also have Mega Scans, which is a library of scanned assets, textures, and so forth. Probably talk about that in more detail later. Epic Games acquired a company called Quixel. Okay, we want to go to the free section and then permanently a free collection. And here you have a bunch of really useful assets. So one of those is this Industry Props Pack 6, and I'll click on that. Okay, and now you can see it's free. You can add it to your cart. Now in this case, since it's free, you can just click on free and that will associate it with your account. And here you can see the download type is also important. This is an asset pack. So if you hover over it, it says this product contains an assortment of Unreal Engine assets which can be imported into a pre-existing project of your choice. So the point of this is you can download it and then you can add it to an existing project. So it's not a standalone, project by itself. It's simply like an add-on. You can add it to an existing project. You can see the author and so on, reviews. Here's the author as well. So if you want more of his assets, you can click on that. Again, to acquire the asset, you can click right here. So for now, I'll just click on back. So I've already acquired this project, the Vehicle Variety Pack. You can write a review and stuff like that. You can see the supported engine versions. So in Library, I'll click on Library and you can add this to a project. Before I do that, I'll go to Learn. Okay, so in the Learn tab, a few important things here. Firstly, there's content examples. I'd suggest you download this and you can scroll down. There's a few interesting things here. So for example, Infiltrator demo. You've probably watched this Infiltrator demo, which is a high-end demo by Epic Games. Okay, and typically you'll see a license for use with Unreal Engine only and stuff like that. So here you can acquire it. Okay, but for now I'll go back to content examples. And here again, you want to acquire this. Now I've already acquired this, so it's linked to my account. And then you can click here to create a project. Okay, what this is, as it says, a museum style project that has a collection of maps with stands that demonstrate specific features. Now the maps are, you can think of as levels. You have a bunch of levels that you can go through and you can see they kind of look like this. Okay, and you can go through the features. You can see various topics covered: animation, blueprints, landscape materials, physics, and more. So this is a useful resource if you want to learn various topics in Unreal Engine. So again, you can create a project right here, or you can go to your vault once you've acquired it, and then you can click create project. So I'll do that. It's set up for the current version of Unreal Engine 4.24, which is fine. You can give it a name. I'll just leave it like this, and the folder. I'll click create. Now it'll start downloading. It'll queue that and it'll start downloading. So this is another thing I'd like to mention. Some of these you'll see it is in our vault. In other words, it's associated with our user account, but it is not downloaded yet. It's not actually on our computer yet. Once it is, we can create multiple projects from that if the supported version is installed and downloaded. Otherwise, it might have to download that again. So here you can see it's quite big. You can pause it and stuff like that. And so once it has downloaded, then it'll actually create that project. So it has to download first, basically. And the same thing with some of the other things like the Vehicle Variety Pack that we acquired. We have to add that to a project. You can see we don't have a drop-down. Usually with this drop-down, you can remove the downloaded files basically from your computer and stuff like that. It won't unassociate that with your account. It will simply remove the files. So that's useful if you don't use it anymore, basically, stuff like that. But for now, we are simply going to add that to a project. You can choose a project right here. As I mentioned, this is an add-on to an existing project, so it's not a project kind of by itself, right? The content examples here is a project by itself. So I just wanted to note that there's kind of a difference between the stuff that you'll see in your vault. Okay, so add to project, my first project, I'll select that and I'll click add to project. Now you'll see that will also have to download because again this stuff has not been downloaded yet. And then when this is finished, I'll come back and I'll show you what's going on. Okay, so you'll notice that we get the content examples. This shows up as a project and we can open that up. Just double click on that. You'll see this vehicle variety pack does not open as a project because we added those to an existing project. Okay, we'll take a look at that in a bit here. Okay, as you can see, this will give us this museum style level, and here we can see this project is a collection of maps or levels, each one showcasing a different aspect or feature of Unreal Engine 4. Now what you can do is you can go into the content browser. Under maps you have a bunch of maps that you can go through. So for example, you can do blueprint communication. So again, if you want to learn the basics of blueprints, then you can go to that level and you can check out some of these examples. So if I click play, you can jump in, and as soon as you come close, you'll see that if you approach this button, for example, the slide will toggle. You have various other interesting events and effects that you get. Right, so check those out. Here, for example, you can see I have selected something in the viewport. You can see I have a bunch of blueprints that show up in the world outliner, so I'll left click on that and we get the blueprint. Toggle light with flicker transition. So this is a great way of learning to open up some of these levels and kind of dissect what is going on. So I'll just close that project off for now, and in this case I'll open up my first project, since that is where we imported this vehicle variety pack into. That'll open up, and as you can see, I'm right at the top here, content. We have the starter content and we have the vehicle variety pack. We have a bunch of maps, presentation for example. Okay, so you might have to wait for Unreal to finish compiling shaders. Now I can play around with some of the new assets that we get. I'll just go back to another level, starter content and maps, and starter map or minimal default. The starter map looks like this, and this is the minimal default one. So we can go again in the vehicle variety pack. You have a few blueprints, it seems, and here you have a few cars to play with, so the truck maybe. And that's a nice object to play around with. Okay, so I just wanted to highlight the difference between examples, kind of projects, and the assets that you add to existing projects. So you can see that these are now cached out since I've downloaded those. And what you can do to remove those from your system. So let's say you're not using something. So in this case, I'm not using this Unreal Mats 3 thing that I downloaded at one point. So you can see it's grayed out. If I create the project, it'll have to download first. You can see it doesn't show this cache here. So what you can do is you can click this drop down and then simply remove local content. Okay, in this case, I'm going to keep this on my system. Now this here I can actually remove. I'm not going to use that anymore, but it will still show up in my project. In fact, I'll just open that up quickly and you'll see that is the case. Okay, you can see we don't have any problems. You can drag these in and they work. They are contained within this project now. Okay, in this next section I want to talk about the anatomy of a project, so the folder structure and more or less where things are located. At this point you don't have to worry about it too much, but I want to give you kind of an overview and a basic idea of what's going on. Okay, so there are a few ways of getting to the content on disk. We can right click on an item in the content browser, so right click on here maybe, then you can go here, show in Explorer. You can do the same thing with folders. So at the top you can right click on a folder and you can go show in Explorer, And on content itself, you can right click on content and then show in Explorer. So you have your documents, Unreal projects, the project name, and then you have content right here. And you can see that vehicle variety pack is here, the starter content and that kind of stuff. So as you can see, we have a few files here. We have config, content, intermediate, and saved. And then we have the .u project file that, again, if you double click on that, that'll open up the project. And it basically contains your configuration as well. So what version of Unreal Engine 4 to use when you open up the project. Okay, then we have the config folder, and this contains your default .ini files, which are used to store project settings. You'll become more familiar with the project settings as you work through the course. Okay, then the content folder stores all of the assets in the project, assets that are either imported, migrated from another project, or that are created directly within the editor. Now, the content folder typically contains two types of files. So we have the .uasset file. This is an asset type, so an imported asset type. And then you have the .umap file, which is a map or level that is created and saved. And then the intermediate folder. Now this stores the project's working .ini settings and preferences. So this folder is generated at runtime and contains temporary data. Okay, then you have the saved folder. Now the saved folder stores files generated by the engine at runtime. And this includes autosave and backup files, as well as screenshots, logs, and asset collections. And the config folder that you'll see in here will contain temporary files, .ini files, that will be used to store project settings. With the launcher open again, you can also right-click on the project. If you hover over this, you will see this window that comes up, and it will show you the compatibility, and then it will also show you the path. So documents, Unreal projects, and so forth. So it depends on where you created that project. So I can right-click on this and then show in a folder. As you can see, that will take me directly to that project. Okay, so one thing you'll notice, if I bring up the editor and I go into the starter content, you will notice all of these folders. So maps, props, shapes, and so forth, blueprints. And if I bring back Explorer, you can see if I go into content and the starter content, you'll again see maps, props, blueprints, and so forth. Okay, so this corresponds to what you'll see in the content browser in the Unreal Engine. So what I recommend is that if you want to import stuff or add folders and things like that, I would recommend that you go and do that in the Unreal Editor. Again, here you can create new folders and stuff like that. You can save, you can import, and so on. Especially if you want to go and delete blueprints and such and various assets, there might be what is known as dependencies. So one asset might depend on the existence of another. So if you delete something, okay, and you have something else that depends on that thing that you're trying to delete, especially if you delete that without using the editor, because sometimes the editor helps you where you can see like that dependency structure. Okay, so in that way you can avoid errors and various headaches with regards to managing your content. So again, I recommend that you use the editor for managing your stuff, your content. So how can we see the location on our disk, like where our vault is, where the stuff in our vault is? You can go to your settings, click on that, and you scroll down, and you can click on Epic Vault Cache Location. And you can see the folder location where that is. So you can browse to change that if you want. And so we'll navigate to this location, and then we'll take a look at that in more detail. If you go to local disk, program files, and then Epic Games, so under launcher, you will see Vault Cache. And now I have this cached out currently, or downloaded, content examples. Okay, and it says 4.24, and this refers to the engine version. Double click on that, go to data. Here you can see the actual project and the content that comes with that. Okay, So that is a quick look at where you can find the stuff that is downloaded in your vault on your disk.